Hello, this is Craig Berzinsky for Beard Brand Alliance, and today I want to talk to you about influencers of style. So where do you get your personal style? On the channel, I represent that elder statesman on Beard Brand Alliance, and I go back to a time where, and a lot of you probably can't understand life, but there was no internet when I was young. And I'm talking high school and talking in college. Those formative years where you are putting together your personal style. Up until a certain age, your mom probably dressed you. Maybe you were given some freedom, as my parents did. I was given the JCPenney's catalog. We would put in an order for clothes. And I was able to pick 3 pair of pants, 3 shirts, 2 sweaters, just put together new clothes. And a lot of times I had to pick new clothes because I grew from the last time I actually went shopping. But the selection was very limited, and you were forced to choose by what you saw in the catalog. But at that time, I didn't really know that there was much else going on, with the exception of what I saw on television. And you're looking at television back in my day where you're looking at 3 channels. All of the media was condensed into 3 networks. And so what you saw on TV was what you would get in terms of possible style inspiration. Looking at things like American Bandstand, I was looking at Saturday Night Live, I was looking at different TV shows where there were young people on the TV shows and inspired by some of those people. So that was it. There was such a limited amount of things, unless you were fortunate enough to live in Manhattan or live in California and you were exposed to more people and just more things. I wasn't that person. Another possible source would have been magazines. And I was coming to age in high school, and Gentleman's Quarterly was relaunched. And for the first time in my life, I saw men wearing stylish clothes. And I was well familiar because I had a house full of sisters that there were women's fashion magazines, but I didn't know that there were men's fashion magazines. And so I remember seeing that for the first time going, wow, there's actually different clothes out there than what there are in the catalogs. And that represented the first time in my life, basically an awakening of, hey, there is other options out there. One of the things that I did see in some of those magazines where I would see, for example, a top coat or a suit or a tie or whatever that was different from what I was used to. And I thought, where am I going to get that? Man of limited means, being in high school. And then I said, wow, ties are looking thinner than they were in the early 70s. My dad has some old ties. And so I raided my father's closet. He was probably the first person that I specifically looked up to and said, hey, there are some things in my dad's closet that are kind of parallel to what's happening in fashion. And I'm going to actually, take it from his closet. So he was actually an early style influencer for me. And it wasn't just ties. I snagged his overcoats. You can see this here. I took every knit shirt that he had. You can see here. I just took anything that fit. And at the time, my dad was pretty slim. I was pretty slim. Things fit. And I actually, to this day, still have some of these items. And I've actually continued to wear my dad's Banlon shirt collection. So for me, one of the primary influences of style were people that I knew. For me, that early person was my dad. And I wouldn't say that he was the most stylish thing, but what he had in his closet actually was paralleling what was happening actually in mainstream fashion at the time, as represented by GQ. So that's one thing that I looked at, people in my life. So back in the day, we had magazines, we had television, and the people that we knew. So of course, between the time I was in high school in about 1980 to about 2000, went off to college, and yes, there were more influences. TV, cable expanded. I was introduced to albums and music that I had never been exposed to before by going off to college. So going off to college, going away to Europe, and was probably one of the biggest influences on my life when it came to style. Went to Europe that junior year of college, so back in the early 80s, and I saw things in terms of fashion, in terms of music, in terms of fashion, food, everything that I had never seen before. So travel actually accounted for what inspired me with fashion. And so you actually see that now. When you look on the internet, you'll see exposés, fashion exposés in certain magazines, or you see things inspired in music videos by travel. You see it by like cultural referencing. You see that all the time now, and that was the case for me by going to Italy, by going to France, and by going to Scotland. So travel actually accounted for some of the things that inspired me when I was looking for inspiration. So moving into today, now we have this vast WWW, which has, we have the world at our fingertips. And so many people can find style inspiration by going to the internet. So on the internet, for me, like, where do I find style inspirations? It is inevitably going to be Instagram for me. I follow a number of fashion accounts. I follow some what I call clearinghouse accounts, people who put together you know, a website that just represent cultural, like culture. So they might have, it might be a particular website that has men's fashion, women's fashion, architecture, travel-related, great photographs. And so I'm inspired by feeds like that on Instagram. And so it's not only just seeing that, oh, wider ties in style now, but actually seeing what other people are putting together as a cohesive vision that represents a trend in not only fashion as it comes to clothing, but fashion when it comes to culture. But there are particular people that have inspired me when it comes to style. And you know, it's really been in the past 4 years that I've really been actively involved on Instagram, and I've met some amazing people with amazing style. I'm looking for inspiration that is similar to the type of way I want to present myself. Now, that isn't the case for everyone. You know, I'm also inspired by people who I don't typically dress like, but on occasion do. So for example, our own Carlos Costa has a remarkable personal style. You know, so he was actually my first introduction to Beard Brand, and his Instagram feed, I'm like, wow, look at this feed. It's so consistent, it has a clear voice. And so when I'm inspired by Instagram feeds, it often is a feed that has this clear voice. For example, I'm totally enamored by, totally inspired by Christopher Corey. Talked about him before on a hair tutorial, but he is a man of just like elegance and style, and he is just got it all going down. And so here's a man that I've had the fortune of meeting, and a man who has actually dressed me. So the vest I'm wearing is part of a suit now. So it's actually from Christopher Corey collection, but not a plug, but obviously a plug. But he's a man that I aspired to take reference from, to, you know, not necessarily look like him, but the idea of the way his clothes are tailored, the way he does casual, the way he fits a suit. I'm like, hey, those are things that'll help me tighten up my suit game. So within my brand, finding someone like Christopher Corey is just the perfect tie-in. And so I don't actually get pigeonholed when I'm perusing on social media in one type of look. I want to be inspired by lots of different looks. Trav White, for example, has he's a youthful guy who has a sense of style. You know, I call it street style. And street, not in the motorcycle culture kind of way, but there's a look of a casual kind of pulled together style, which is identified as street style. Often great shoes and boots, the type of pants that fit really well, maybe sweaters with leather jackets or bomber jackets, and the way it's presented, you know, can be identified as street style. He's a guy that, you know, I find inspiration from, totally different from a Christopher Corey. So find those people. You know, you can search on Instagram, you can hashtag street style, you can hashtag suit and tie, you can hashtag bespoke style, which means custom. There's lots of things you can do to hashtag and find things that can help you identify your personal style. Look at lots of stuff. Be a sponge. Take it all in, see what you like, and see if you can apply what those people are doing to your personal life. Going back, actually, if I go back to my past, if we go back to starting as early as probably 10 years old, I was probably very inspired by Hollywood movies. My parents actually used to watch Hollywood movies, or watch movies on Sunday afternoons, or there would be a movie of the week, and often they were classics, inspired by the fashion that you see in movies. So a lot of these were older, done way before I was born. But when you see the styles, when you see style in the 40s and the 50s, the 60s, there's just great style inspiration in cinema. And that even happens today. You see great representations of clothes on actors. You see that in any 007 movie. You can see what people are wearing, seeing what they're driving. The Kingsman is a good example. If you want to see wonderful English tailoring, there's a place to look. Cinema today, as it was back then, is a great place to look for inspiration. So going to the movies, but you can watch movies on YouTube. So another place to look is actually street style. Like when you're walking down the street, so if it's not people that you know personally, you see people all the time in public who have a great sense of style. Make a mental note. You don't want to be creepy and like take people's pictures, but if someone has a great pair of boots on, or if they're wearing a great jacket, or if you see a hat that you like, hey, by all means say, hey, where'd you get that hat? No harm. Just keep it simple, and people will be happy to tell you where they got this stuff. People stop me all the time, about my beard. People stop me now about my hair. But people stop me, where did you get that suit? This suit, I can't tell you, this was a custom suit. I've sold a bazillion of these suits for this particular manufacturer because I wear it and people tell me all the time, great suit. You know what's great about that suit? It fits so well. And I think people respond to the fact that your clothes fit, not as well as the fact that the suit looks good. So there's a whole tie in there, but that's basically street style. You see people that inspire you in person that you might not know, that you see walking in the streets. Don't be afraid to ask them those simple questions about where they got their clothes. So where do I get my personal style inspiration? Number one, it's Instagram. Number two, it's actually from people that I know. Number three, it's from movies, whether they be from the past or whether they be current. And number four, it's actually from street style, seeing people walking in the street at any particular time. So why don't you comment below and tell us where you get your style inspiration. Till we meet again.
Stop. Before you watch the next video, let me tell you, you are worth it. And what do I mean by that? I mean that you deserve to invest in yourself. You deserve to pamper yourself. You deserve to take care of your skin, your hair, your beard, and Beard Brand has your back with products, not just for your hair, your beard, and your skin, but also for your mind.